8 cranial bones. Let's pay attention because you will have to teach me when I go over this with you, okay? All right. You have the frontal, and turn to that page too, so you can be with me. Yeah, okay, sure.
This one? Okay.
Oh, this is not fun. Wait,
Where's Andy? What are you doing?
Oh, Kristen is our tutor.
You can come up too.
Sorry. I'll go back and down. Get up there.
All right. Turn to this page. Turn to that page. Okay, there are 8 cranial bones. 1 frontal, 2 parietal, 1 occipital, 2 temporal, 1 here, 1 here, okay? One sphenoid and 1 ethmoid. Those are the 8 cranial bones, okay? There are 4 sutures. 4 sutures. This is the coronal suture that sutures the frontal bone to the 2 parietal. This is the sagittal suture that sutures the 2 parietal bones together. This is the lambdoidal suture that sutures the occipital to the 2 parietal. And the suture around the temporal bone is the squamous suture. Turn to that page. That's the squamous suture. Okay. Any questions about those 8 cranial bones? Okay, let's look at the inside of the skull. Turn to that page.
One of the bones was the occipital?
Occipital.
How do you spell that?
Here, right here. Come on. Keep up with me, okay? All right. Turn to this page, everyone. Let's look at the sphenoid bone. Even though the sphenoid can be seen on both sides of the skull, it's one bone. Okay, and so let's look at the sphenoid. Looks like a bat in flight. It has wings. Now, this upper ridge here is the lesser wing of the sphenoid. The rest of the wing is the greater wing. Okay? In the middle of the sphenoid is the solartersica. The solartersica cradles the pituitary gland. Okay? Now this is a bad. Give me a better skull. Give me yours. Okay?
Paul.
Skull.
No, just this part.
Oh.
Oh, well, you can bring the whole skull and take this. Okay? All right, take that. All right, take it. Now I need the mandible. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, this is a better looking skull here, okay? So this is the solartersica. It cradles the pituitary gland, okay? Any questions?
What is it?
Right there in the middle.
Okay.
All right. Any questions about the sphenoid bone? Let's look at the ethmoid. This is the ethmoid up here, okay? Ethmoid. The elevated part in the middle is the crista galli. Crista galli. Crista galli is surrounded by a perforated area called the cribriform plate. So this is what you see in pencil. You know, some student has colored it black. That would be the cribriform plate. All right.
That's with the holes, right? You said?
It has holes, yes. All right. Any questions about the ethmoid? Those two are the components of the ethmoid. Okay. All right, so those are the 8 bones of the cranium. You have 1 frontal, 2 parietal, 1 occipital, 2 temporal, 1 sphenoid, 1 ethmoid. Any questions? All right, let's go to the facial bones. Turn to this page. Okay. The nose has 2 bones that are sutured in the center. You don't see it here. Remember, these are not real bones, okay? So, you know, you'll see flaws in this, okay? But there should be a suture in the center here, suturing those 2 nasal bones together. Below the nasal bones, you have the nasal cavity. In the center of the nasal cavity, you will have the perpendicular plate. Look. Perpendicular plate of the ethmoid that extends into the nasal cavity to form the bony nasal septum. Okay. Now, at the base of the nasal septum, you'll have the vomer bone. This is the vomer right here. Vomer. Okay. So those 2 bones make up the bony nasal septum. Now, look at this right here. Turn to that page. Turn to right there. Yeah, that's good. This will be on my exam. Students always miss it. This is the posterior aspect of the vomer. Okay? So mark that. Vomer. This is the posterior aspect of the vomer. Okay?
Where'd your pen from? Where was it?
Vomer, right there.
This part?
Right there. That's the vomer, right?
The posterior part?
Yes. Okay. All right. Let's look at the upper jaw. The upper jaw is the maxilla, or the maxillary bone. Turn to that page. Turn to, yeah, that page. Has 2 bones. Okay. Sutured together in the center. The lower jaw is the mandible. This is the mandible. The mandible is the only bone in the skull that moves. All right.
Is the maxillary 2 different bones?
2 bones there
This
are
is
sutured in
one,
the center.
and this is another?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're sutured together, okay? All right, let's look at the cheekbones. Here you have the zygomatic bone. Turn to that page. Turn to this page, right here. Turn to this page. Okay, this is the zygomatic bone right here. Okay, the zygomatic bone has an arch. This is the arch that extends from the zygomatic bone. The zygomatic arch has 2 parts. Okay, this first part here, right here, this is the temporal process of the zygomatic bone. This is the first part. Behind that, you will have the zygomatic process of the temporal bone, and that's attached to the temporal bone. Okay? Those are the 2 parts of the zygomatic arch. Those are 4-word answers. So make sure that you know all 4 words, but you'll lose points if you don't. Any questions? Okay, let's look at the hard palate. Turn to this page. Yeah, that page. Okay. The hard palate is the floor of the mouth roof of the nasal cavity. Now, you know, everything that I say, I expect you to say. I hope you guys are not taking notes, so I don't know how you're going to give me the feedback I'm looking for, okay?
The hard palate is the roof of the mouth.
Roof of the mouth and floor of the nasal cavity. That's what I want you to tell your group when you go back to them. There are 4 bones of the hard palate. 2 of the bones are the maxillary bones. Those are the anterior 2. And 2 of the posterior bones are the palatine bones. Okay? These bones are sutured at birth, usually. But if there's an opening, you know, you guys who are at the table, this is no time to be looking at your cell phones, and you know, you have a skull. You should be looking at the skull. All right. The exam is going to be in 2 weeks. You know, there's a lot of material, you know, to learn in that brief period of time. All right. If there's an opening or space between these 4 bones, we call that a cleft palate, P-A-L-A-T-E. Cleft is C-L-E-F-T, cleft palate. Okay? A cleft palate poses a feeding problem to the newborn. And what happens is the milk will go from the mouth to the nose, and he will inhale it or aspirate it into his lungs and die. So the cleft palate has to be repaired before he's discharged home. Any questions about hard palate?
How do you know if there's a problem or not? Like, if it happens immediately, then like the
Well,
baby dies. So
yeah, well,
is it repaired like
when
immediately?
you will know, because if he begins to drink milk, he'll start choking, okay, because the milk is going into his, you know, he's aspirating, you know, the milk. But a pediatrician is supposed to look for that, because when, you know, with each delivery, there's a pediatrician in the delivery room, and he is supposed to examine the baby completely, examine, you know, the mouth, and make sure that the hard palate is closed. Any questions?
The hard palate is made of 2 maxillary bones.
4 bones, 2 maxillary, 2 palatine. Okay, let's look at the orbital complex. Turn to that page. Okay, the roof of the orbital complex is the frontal bone. The floor would be the maxillary bone. Okay, the lateral wall would be the zygomatic bone. The back wall would be the sphenoid bone, and the nasal or the medial wall has 2 bones. This upper bone is the ethmoid. Okay, ethmoid, right here. Okay. The bone below would be the lacrimal bone. The lacrimal bone has this opening here. This opening is the nasal lacrimal, what is it?
Canal.
Canal. Nasal lacrimal canal. And through this canal would be the duct of the lacrimal gland. The lacrimal gland is a tear gland, and its duct moves into that nasal lacrimal canal.
Where it is again?
Right here.
This?
See the opening there?
Oh, right there.
Okay. Moves into that opening, and that empties tears into the nose, the nasal cavity, which explains why you snip when you cry. Okay? I notice that you're not writing this stuff, okay? I'm expecting you to say everything that I'm saying, okay? And I'm going to give it to you, all right? All right. Those are the bones of the orbital complex. Any questions? Okay, let's look at the mandible. Turn to that page. All right, here. Okay, this is the, turn to this page. All right.